Because sex is one of the few subjects that I can think of that we are like hyper obsessed with and hyper repressed about at the same time.
I've never spent time thinking about what might actually turn me on.
I ended up reading contemporary romance and I just fell in love with it. But being able to like picture myself in these scenarios with my partner, it was really powerful.
Fantasy, it gives us information, it's data. But instead of like what's wrong with me, it's actually like, what is that saying about my desires and what my nervous system might be needing or wanting?
Maybe a little foreplay where it's just a little tip as a tease. I'm in. I'm all in.
Arguably you're not, it's just the tip.
Showing up hard.
And this could be our little secret.
Welcome back to Heart and Head Work. I'm Rocky and I'm here with Tessa.
We're here.
We're so excited to be back, and we're particularly stoked because we have two incredible women joining us today. We have Dr. Stormy Hill, who is a mental health occupational therapist, which I also need to know what that means, and an intimacy and relationship coach, which I'm very excited about, certified no less, and public speaker. And through our conversations, she was also telling us she's a pickleball enthusiast. Mm-hmm. Alongside Dr. Stormy Hill, we also have Courtney. She is the owner and founder of Lovebound Library, which is the first romance-only bookstore in Utah, and she will be celebrating her 2-year anniversary in February, which is right now. So welcome, ladies. Thank you for joining Tessa and I. We're so excited to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us. So fun to be here.
Yeah, so excited.
Yeah, so we're excited to chat with you guys today, particularly about sex.
Yes.
Our whole team was so freaking lit up about this topic because we wanted to talk about the cultural understanding of sex for women, the shame and desire and all the complexity that is surrounding sex, and having two people in this space where we can better understand why our romantic fantasies and our tropes and all these different components are actually mirrors of ourselves rather than some outside source that we are reaching for. And from that, our hope is that we can lead more women into feeling their whole selves, because this is a major piece that I don't think enough people are talking about. We don't think enough people are talking about. So we're really excited to chat about it today. So for everybody listening, this is a note that there is definitely conversation of sexual content. This is for you to explore and feel comfortable around. So go at your own pace, take and leave certain things that resonate with you or just don't make you comfortable. That's all okay. But we're hoping to open that conversation. And to you guys, I have an idea, because we're talking sex and well, maybe you guys don't know, but Tessa knows and the rest of the Maven team knows. I love to overuse a sex everything. Puns, words, naughty words, fuck, pussy, whatever it might be. Like, I like to just throw it out there.
I'm glad that you already got that out.
Yeah, I had to get it out.
We have a timer going on how quick Rocky's going to drop the F-bomb.
Fucking early.
You might have just beat your record.
I know.
Good job,
Look
bud.
at that. Personal best. I'm fast on the ejaculation of the fuck word.
Are you saying
okay, but that's my challenge.
You're going to have a contest, and you know how I love contests.
Yes, we're going to challenge each other. Use as many sexy words. They do not have to be as masculine as the ones I just threw out. But yeah, are we open to this game?
Oh yeah.
Winner will get a prize.
Yes.
Love it.
I'm
Myself
getting
included.
wet just thinking about it.
Way to go.
I think it's going to feel good. Yeah.
It is going to feel good. We're going to release it.
Okay, so what we have been playing around with in this podcast is really talking a lot about presence. And Stormy, this is one of your secret sauces based on what I know about you. And we call this a meet the moment, where we just do a quick drop in. And we do that for, our selfish reasons, but now we're inviting you to drop in with us. And we've asked Stormy, y'all, to meet the moments with us. It's a short, for those of you listening, it's a very short moment here for you to pause. And what we think that it may, or invite you to do, is to just put down whatever you're doing and take 1 or 2 minutes with us and just see if this may make you more open and a little more grounded to the conversation that we're going to have today. Stormy,
Love
will you
it.
help us out?
Yeah, and so fun. By the way, the invitation is, you might have just laughed along with us. You might have gotten a little uncomfortable with all the swear words we were to use, but that's perfect. And the invitation is to meet the moment exactly where and how you are. So just go ahead and just get yourself comfortable. If you are safely, if you're watching and listening and safely able to, and you want to close your eyes and part of this practice, feel free to do so. Otherwise, you can keep your eyes open. So this is called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's from the somatic practices world in the mental health space to get us more into our bodies. So just go ahead and start with your eyes softly open, because the first part of the practice is to notice and label in your mind 5 things that you see in your space. Right now, anything you see in your field, just list 5 things. Great. And once you have those 5 things labeled, then you notice 4 things that you feel. So not emotions, but actual sensations, sensorial feelings. 4 things that you feel in this moment exactly as you are. And then the next part is 3 things that you hear. So you might want to invite you to tune into maybe a little subtler sounds. So you might hear something more obvious, and then notice if you can list 2 things that are a little bit more subtle in your space. And then it's 2 things that you smell. It can be nothing, it can be cold air, just 2 things that you notice. And 1 thing that you taste. And then if your eyes are closed, you can open them up. But this is just a way, and you're gonna learn, but I love the brain. And this, by when you notice your senses, it gets you into the thinking part of the brain and out of the reactive part.
That's delightful.
I know, I could taste the lip gloss you gave me, and it made me feel like, oh, sexy lip gloss connection. We're in the same thing.
And who doesn't like lubrication, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going right back to the challenge.
Yes.
Too quick for this. Okay, I gotta really get in. I'm ready.
How about you, Courtney?
I know.
What came up for you?
Oh, it was coffee. That's not sexy.
Oh, that's
Could be
sexy.
cool.
Oh,
Could be
okay.
sexy.
I'm imagining the syrup getting squirted.
Oh my God.
And
So
yes.
good.
You're right. Syrup was squirted. I watched it. So I'm
How
here.
do you feel when you say it? Because I was also feeling sweaty, and I was feeling some a little bit of tightness around my mouth of I use comedy to alleviate
Uncomfortable.
discomfort. And so, how'd you feel?
About squirting?
Oh,
the
yeah.
word? Like when I say it?
saying squirting.
I'm like, I don't know. I just was thinking of the syrup getting it poured in.
It's amazing.
Tessa, can you introduce Courtney
Oh,
and
my
Stormy from how we know them and how we brought them into the podcast?
Oh, we're so lucky to have you. This is such a cool combo, because when we were talking about what we really wanted to talk about next, sex was like, sex. The whole team was like, sex.
I love it.
And you all have been on our list of interesting people to bring in. But the cool thing that really came out of our conversation was that they wanted to bring you in at the same time, which we hadn't done 2 guests that don't know each other before. So we're really curious about how this is going to unfold. And I've known Stormy for a really long time, and I don't even remember our first connection, but I've had the very pleasure of working with her one-on-one in her. I always would refer to her as my sex therapist, and in her private practice. And what was so cool is I entered that space to really think about deepening the connection between my husband and I. And I went to the first session solo, and then the plan was to bring him in. And what ended up happening was so interesting, because I never brought him in. What I realized that the work that really needed to be done was my own work there. And it was such an intimate, sweet space that I just savored. And it really did change not only our sex lives, but it gave us some definitions to really drop in, because you would send me home with sexy homework, which was so cool. And a lot of it was just for me, but then I would also loop him in on what we were working on. And that gave us just a common language. It's kind of like I dragged my husband to meditation teacher training for 8 weeks, and he doesn't drop in there to that space as easy as I do. But what it gave us is that common language.
Totally.
And so that's where I met you, and I've been obsessed with you even more once I got to work with you on that level.
Thanks.
So
Equally
thanks for
obsessed.
saying yes. I really,
Thank you
really
for
appreciate it.
reaching out. I'm
Yeah,
equally obsessed.
It's quite amazing, and all the cool things that you've been up to. And then Courtney, wow, look what you've built in 2 years. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's huge.
Thank you.
And when we first met Courtney came in and pitched us in this room, actually.
Yep. I
her
was
big
remembering that
idea.
walking in. I was like, I haven't been in here in so long.
That's so
Yeah,
fun.
and my team you had reached out to our team, or someone had connected them, and my team pitched us on this idea, and I honestly was like,
We don't get it.
no,
We didn't get this.
fair.
we're old.
So
we're
good.
kind of old, I guess. Maybe we didn't get it, and
Sexy
so
old, but old.
I pushed off the meeting a couple weeks and was like, fine, yeah. And then met you and just fell in love with your passion and your vision and the need for this in the space that we were in at the time. And something that just sticks out in my mind that I think I tell every person when I'm talking about you is when I said, why do you want to do this? And you said, well, during COVID, I really wanted to just have some lightness in my life. And then I found romance, and then I wanted to give a happy ending to people.
Is that part of the challenge?
That was
That
was-
yeah, that counts.
By the way, that was
Even
how
though
it
it's Courtney
works.
words, maybe she gets that point.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. And I just remember that was my moment for me that I was like, boop. And then I walked out of that room and went and paid attention to what people were reading. I went on a trip that weekend and noticed that most of the people in the airport were reading romance novels, because you had educated me and told me 60% of all books were romance. And I was like,
We're
damn.
wrong.
Yeah.
We're wrong. We should do this.
And we came back that weekend and was like, and then I went out to my team and said, all right, y'all, what are you all reading? And every single one of them, except Rocky, well, you do dip your toe in a lot into the romance space.
No.
But
Well, we
you
can
do
get
it
to
with your
that.
team. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But we're reading romance. So it was
That's
that moment
amazing.
where I was like, what the fuck do I know?
Yeah.
This is why we employ cool and interesting and people that have these different viewpoints, because if it was up to me, we would have missed this golden opportunity, and you have brought so much to our block. So thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I feel so lucky.
Yeah. So give us from your guys' perspective, since that's ours, who are you? What's happening today? Give us some
Oh,
background.
that's a big question.
Oh,
That
I
is a big
love
question.
that. Who am I? Well,
Or who are you not, if you want to get existential?
before this podcast, we started the little, you let us in our little, all the women we've been. And I think that's one of the superpowers of women. I really believe that's part of our strength, is that we are so many women in our lifetime. And can we bless and love and honor those women, even if they may no longer be aligned with where we are or where we're going. But I think, that's, as I'm 49. So I think about, what do I want to do in my 50s, coming up pretty soon here. And I'm like, wow, I have been a lot of different women. I've had a lot of different careers. And so I think right now I'm feeling in my life most motivated, most passionate, most lit up, most turned on by working with amazing, powerful, just badass women. And we were
same.
talking,
yeah, girl.
and we were talking before we started recording about, and really helping, and I'm sure we'll get into this more on this topic, but really shifting from competition or comparison into celebration, and surrounding myself with women and creating a culture where we are just celebrating the shit out of each other and cheerleading like hell for each other, rather than feeling like, your success minimizes mine or your beauty negates mine. It's actually quite the opposite. It's really about, it's contagious, right? When women are supporting and lifting up women, and as one rises, we all rise, and the more we can really wrap around mind around that. So that's what I'm feeling like most excited about right now in my life.
Yeah, I love that you're bringing up the idea of being more supportive, because we've been in that space for a long time at Maven, but culturally we didn't grow up in that space. More often than not, women are in constant, high school is like a killer. And so isn't that cool now that we get to do that as our work? It's
So
like, no, girl,
amazing.
what's up? You want to talk about sex? You want to talk about, your problem? All this stuff is here.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's so good. And then we get to be stronger and more authentic and more in presence and all rise together, which is pretty amazing.
It's incredible.
Who am I? I opened Love Bound Library 2 years ago, so that's really where the majority of my focus has been. It's so much fun, like Stormy saying, just connecting specifically with other women in the industry, working with different authors, different bookstore owners, but also readers that are coming in and just building connection with them. It's so much fun. We were talking before this about the struggles and like how much you learn opening a business, especially a bookstore. And it was 2023 when I was looking to open, and we were talking about how much work it is, how much you really put into it. And if there's ever been a moment where I've been regretful or kind of wishing I would have gone a different route, and there's not. I've never worked harder. I've never been more tired constantly. Probably never cried more. But I've also never been so fulfilled in anything that I've done. So it's just, feels like I finally found my spot, and it's just so fun.
Oh,
So-
that gives me chills.
You're delivering people's dreams. I mean, that's
Wet dreams.
Yeah, maybe wet dreams. And also bringing like empowered sexuality to Utah. So I totally
Yes.
just
Yes.
honor you so much. It's awesome.
I know nobody
We
thinks of
needed it.
Utah and goes, "Oh, romantic bookstore."
Yeah.
That probably exists.
Yeah.
And
No, and we're all gonna go down there after this recording
Yes,
and
we
get
are.
all of our gifts. And I mentioned, I'm here for the smuttiest thing you have in your
We've
store.
got it.
Bring it on.
I've got so many recommendations. Don't worry.
Well, give us
right.
give
Find
us
them.
the smuttiest.
The smuttiest.
Yeah.
It kind of depends. So anytime somebody's coming in asking for a recommendation, I always want to clarify a couple things. I don't want to just be like, "Hey, what about this book?" And they're like, "Oh my God, that is that's horrifying."
Oh my gosh, you mean?
Exactly. Thank you. That was really rude of me. But really, I do want to ask things like, okay, so you do want smut. Like, what have you read before? What's kind of something that you're looking for, something you're into? When it does come to smut, one of the questions is, how do we feel about monsters? And, I know that's something you don't think about often.
So
This
we're
is not even
off.
judgment. This is confusion.
It's no longer fairy porn, and we're to monster porn.
I
What
mean,
do we
it
call
depends
it?
on who you ask.
Is the,
right?
is the
for
monster like
everybody.
ravishing me? In the heroine?
Is
in
it
the
a hot
story?
monster?
Oh yeah.
Oh, is it a
yeah, they're hot. They're hot. They're
They're hot
tall. They're
monsters?
big.
They're like
Okay.
big in all the right places, big or what?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So if we're thinking of like the smuttiest off the top of my head, we do have one of our best sellers. We love her. Morning Glory Milking Farm, about a Minotaur by C.M. Nacosta.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Minotaur.
Stunning.
Glory
Stunning.
milking farm. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you milk the Minotaur?
You're gonna have to read it and find
Maybe
out.
he
you know?
milks you, Rocky. Who knows?
About that. I'm a small titty girl, so I'm never like thinking of my boobs as a
gonna
milk production.
You're gonna milk these?
Yeah, you're gonna milk these, Greg? Oh, Greg's my dad's name. That's weird. He's listening. Hi, Dad. Weird.
Listening.
Hopefully not.
What up, yo? He's totally listening.
Oh my god.
That's amazing. You know what I love about seeing, so because you're on our block, we get to see the people that walk in your store, and there are several times a week, I see 3 generations of women walking in, grandma, mom, and daughter,
amazing.
like teenage daughter. And I'm amazed and excited and shocked based on how I grew up in Utah. It's such a different way. I mean, there wasn't a lot of talk about sex, what sex meant, what you do with those feelings after sex, before sex.
You're allowed to
during
have
sex.
pleasure.
Yeah, all of those things. It was just
Totally.
like, don't get pregnant. That was
Yeah.
like how I was raised. So there was like, even though I think my parents were like relatively forward and talking a lot, but it just was that was my messaging. There was no discussion about how the sex is so complex
Is so
as a
complex.
woman, as any human, really, but like it's so much. And for you to be, I don't know, taking away some of the shame around sex and just bringing it into the light out of the darkness feels with such a beautiful packaging around it. Like your store is so visually beautiful that I just get lit up. I mean, I'm
So
such
cool.
a fan. I'm knocking on your door.
Amazing.
So Courtney, because what Tessa brought up is such an important thing that we should talk about. What's your history with sex and opening a bookstore, and what impact did that have with your circle of friends and family and all that? Because you're on the
And
forefront.
relationship. I mean, there's so much there because
Yeah.
you get to help facilitate other people's sex lives. But
Tell us about yours.
Oh God.
like whatever you feel comfortable sharing,
Yeah.
but just like
Or
tell us
more.
about your path. Yeah.
No, I
Yeah,
love it.
or
Honestly,
uncomfortable
I have always loved romance. I really found it when I was probably 14 or 15. And I've been a reader my whole life. And that was probably about the age that I started with like some of the legends like Charlene Harris, who wrote like the Suki Stackhouse series that got turned into True Blood. If you guys saw that on HBO years and years ago.
Oh, no, I have not, but I remember
Okay.
seeing
It
the
is
cover.
so good.
And
It's
yeah,
very sexy.
I always thought
Yep.
vampires were sexy. I
did
read
too.
Anne Rice.
Yep.
And that was
Interview
like,
with a Vampire.
oh, this is tingly.
It is.
Right?
It is. No, 100%. And then I read like Laurel K. Hamilton, where she's a vampire hunter who falls for the vampire. And it's so,
Romeo and Juliet.
The taboo fall for.
It's so good. So really, fast forward a couple of years, COVID hits, and I've still just been reading true crime novels and fantasy novels. I'm like, man, I really just do want something to chill me out because we're getting bombarded with news after news that's just horrible. And I ended up reading contemporary romance, which really I hadn't explored much in my high school years. That was all more fantasy based. And I just fell in love with it. It was such an escape for me. And, at this time I had just gotten engaged, been with my husband, for 4 or 5 years. So in a great, healthy relationship, but being able to like picture myself in these scenarios with my partner, it was really powerful. And there was one book that really was the catalyst to all of this. Like I have always wanted to open a bookstore. That's been my dream since I was a girl. I thought every little girl wanted to do that. So it's shocking when people don't. But there was a
You're
book
so
I read.
fucking cute.
I know, it's so great. It's awesome.
There was a book I read called Happy Place by Emily Henry. And when this book came out, I had already been a fan of Emily Henry's. I was excited to read this one. And I feel like there are certain books that you read at the perfect time in your life. Like this book was written for me, and that's what this one was. So spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the entire book. But the book follows this couple who had separated, and they're trying to like fool their friends that they're still together.
This is the one I read.
Yes. I loved it. I loved
On
it.
the plane where I was hot and sweaty, and I was like, there is so much oral sex in this. Why is oral sex making me so uncomfortable?
I don't know if that one was.
Was that not Happy
I don't know.
Place?
It's kind of a common trope, so it could have been.
Okay.
But they ended up, you find out, like, as the story goes on, that they split up because his father had passed away unexpectedly. And she didn't know how to comfort him during this time. And so you kind of, like, as the story goes on, you learn more and more about, like, what ended up happening, why they split up. And, like, spoiler alert, they get back together. It's a beautiful story. But when I read this book, we were actively... Oh, sorry. We were losing my mother-in-law. And it was I'm sure if you guys have spouses who have lost a parent, or if you've lost a parent, it is the hardest thing you'll go through. And so she was really, really sick. We knew it was coming. And really reading this book, it showed me so much of, like, of course I'm going to be there for my husband. Obviously, that's what you do when you're in a marriage. But being able to live through this experience in the book showed me, like, okay, here's what I don't want to do, because I see how that happens horribly. And it really just gave me even more motivation and, like, clarity of, like, he's my number one priority. I'm here through all of this. And, like, it changed my life. Because later on in the book, after they do end up getting back together, she leaves her job as, like, doctor, whatever, goes to open like a pottery studio to live her dream. And that is exactly what I needed. Is I was like, you know what? They got through this horrible time in their life. She left her unfulfilling job. She followed her dreams. I'm like, that's what we're going to do. And 6 months later,
Oh my gosh, that's
So,
amazing.
it was like, that is the book I credit all of this to, is because it was like, I've read so much that has tied certain things together for me, but nothing like that book where I was like, this is insane.
Wow.
I remember when you were in here and we had, it was the second meeting and we were saying yes to this idea. And I was like, you sure you want to leave your cush job? Because she had a dope corporate job, was moving up the ranks, making great money.
Overrated.
And you were like, abso-fucking-lutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to leave
That's amazing.
a job and do something with more meaning. And I was like, all right, girl, let's do this.
That's amazing.
We didn't know that other side, what you had just gone through. So
Yeah.
I want to say thank you for sharing. That's such a sweet, precious moment to share with us here.
Absolutely.
And from someone who doesn't read romance, it's so fascinating to hear you say that you saw yourself in a romance novel, because I don't think of romance novels as that. And I love the idea of the fact that, of course, they are. It's another form of literature where we can see ourselves in something and use it for inspiration and reflection and all these beautiful pieces.
Yeah.
And that's really, really, I didn't mean to ruin it earlier by saying like, is that the one with a lot of oral sex?
Oh my God,
But
no,
like,
you're so right. Because honestly, I'm like, maybe there was, and I just don't remember. But no.
but yeah, that's also really cool as an outsider of not someone who reads a lot of these books, that like, oh, well, now I want to go read a book that inspires me and leads me into. And you also said something that was fascinating about you envisioning yourself in the book. Same thing, but also like not fantasizing outside of your own life, but using it as inspiration to bring it into your life, your relationships.
It's a muse.
Yeah,
It's
like
amazing.
Now I'm a little bit more like, all right, take me on a tour. Like I want to be in the story.
We're shopping over
Milking
there.
Minotaur.
Yeah, come on, G. Bring your Minotaur body over. My husband. Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I don't have a lot of experience. I mean, it's interesting. As a sex coach, I often will encourage couples I'm working with to use erotica as a muse, as an inspiration to, you know, get the creative creative juices flowing.
Yes.
You know? It's like
Point
but
for
also-
Stormy.
All right, count it.
But because it's sometimes easier when let's say I'm in a relationship and I'm just not feeling, you know, like I want to rip each other's clothes off or whatever. Reading about a couple who's really does want to rip it in detail, that's so vivid. It's a source of inspiration, right? It gets us outside of our own like muck sometimes. And one of my first, this is totally a personal share, but I think it was called Topping from Below. Do you know that book?
I don't.
So it was my
it sounds
first
great.
kink read. And I had pixie short platinum hair. So I think I was like 23. And I'm sitting there. I remember sitting there at the pool on a family vacation, and I'm literally reading it, like holding it like this because I'm like don't want anyone else to see.
You have a newspaper in front of me, and you're like, I'm just reading the New York
and
Times.
I am beet red, and I'm going, oh my God. And my sister's like, what the fuck are you reading? You know, and I start laughing so hard. But true story, I'm like, what is this world of BDSM? And now one of the things I love to teach and lecture on and work with the couples on is what I call conscious kink, but that was truly inspired by this book called Topping from Below.
Tell us more about conscious
Yeah,
kink.
same
Asking for a
question.
friend.
Could you? I'm asking for me. Fuck, give me what is.
So for me, I really think kink can be really beautiful for power dynamics and to work on what they call switch. Whether, let's say, I tend to run more in my masculine energy, and I'm talking about if it doesn't matter if you're in a hetero or homosexual relationship. If I'm in my masculine and my partner is in their feminine energy, we're going to have polarity and want to rip each other's clothes off. But let's say we're both in our feminine energy, which isn't male, female, it's masculine, feminine.
Right.
Like we're going to have really deep connection and maybe like have a good hug and a cry, but we're not going to want to rip each other's clothes off. And if we're both in our masculine, we're going to get a whole bunch of shit done and be very like purpose forward, but we're also not going to be in that polarity.
Holy shit.
And so
I'm literally just having a moment of like, I'm masculine most of the time.
All of the, yeah.
And a lot of
When
really
it doesn't
powerful
work.
women are often in our masculine. My life puts me in my masculine energy a lot. I'm a single mom. mom. I run a bunch of businesses. But in the bedroom, I desire to be in my feminine, which means I need to be with a partner who's running his masculine. For me, it's a heterosexual relationship, so running his masculine. And often, if that's not the case, kink can be a really lovely way to work on playing with those polarities and doing kind of a conscious power dynamic shift where you're like, okay, I'm going to play like, for me, it could be really has to be really dramatic. So I'm going to play like the helpless maiden, right? Like, which is not what I want to run, but really surrendering.
It's got to be something that makes you uncomfortable,
Totally.
right? Because when you say that, I'm like, absolutely the fuck not.
Yeah,
I am in all leather and I'm whipping the shit out of somebody. There's power.
Totally.
But you're saying go the opposite.
Yeah, well, so that's what's beautiful about role playing, and kink can give you a really fun place to role play with those power dynamics. And so the conscious part for me is really just more from my world around sacred sexuality about so I want there to be conscious awareness around what we're doing and obviously full consent. And so I teach a lot of tantra and sacred sexuality, and there's tantra teachers who are there's no room for kink, which is very non-tantra-esque because tantra would say there's room for everything. And so conscious kink is how do we bring in conscious power dynamics? How do we bring in, perhaps fetishes or bondage or whatever aspect of kink we're looking to explore, but to do it with thoughtfulness.
So are you instructing couples to have conversations beforehand, so you're not having them in the moment?
Definitely.
So you're
absolutely.
you're
Safe words and
around
the
surprise spank, and then you're like, what the fuck?
So
pinky or whatever it leads to.
Yeah, for sure. So full consent and also having your safe words, and also, the key would be full consent, safe words, and at least some sort of decision about aftercare, meaning what are you going to do after, to talk about and it may not be talk, it might just be lay next to each other, whatever, you come up with your agreements, but the aftercare piece so that...
Is anybody else's mind just what do you mean aftercare? Like a tattoo? But you're right. We too often just do it.
Right.
Essentially.
Oh my
Such
gosh,
a 90s.
12?
Yeah, I was just going to say, wow, way to wake up my seventh grade. Yes. Where it's all right, so we're doing it. Whatever, I'm rolling with it because that was what came to mind. You're doing it, and then you just stop doing it, and that's the end of the conversation. Right. And you're saying,
it's a really great. And it's aftercare can be something as simple. Let's say let's say you're doing role play for the first time, right? Because people think role play has to be, so grand. It's no, role play can just be we're going to pretend to be strangers, or we're going to go to a bar, which I think they do in Modern Family, a really funny episode where they go and pretend to be strangers. But you can pretend to be strangers or whatever it might be, or pretend that wear a wig and all of a sudden you're a redhead or whatever it might be, so that it can be really small role play. But then what was that like for you? So if afterwards, after the exchange, which may or may not include penetrative sex, it's what was that like for you? What did you love? What felt uncomfortable? What did you learn? What do you want more of? That can be the simple aftercare,
Never ask my husband at any point in time any of those questions. I'm so sorry. Or anyone, actually.
It's a good one. So, but my introduction to kink came through a book, and I actually had forgotten that until sitting right here on this couch.
Oh, that's
so funny.
Very fun.
Wow.
No, it's honestly, it is very common how many therapists, whether it's sex therapists, trauma therapists, come in looking for recommendations for their patients that they're working with, for their clients that they're working with.
So good.
And it's definitely something Stormy can speak to that is way out of my wheelhouse. But I do know that is something that so many survivors of SA look to really kind of take control of the narrative back, and really just kind of a very safe way to explore, especially if somebody maybe isn't comfortable exploring any of that with a partner yet.
Yeah.
Being able to explore it from just the comfort of it just being with you. You can read about it. You can learn about I don't know if that interests me at all, or, hey, I've never thought of that.
Totally.
So yeah.
Because I think there's power in being reading something and being what the literal fuck? How is that a turn? There's power in your no, obviously. And then there's power in your
well,
okay,
maybe.
maybe with the right minotaur, that might be right.
Well, it really, and that's why when we were talking earlier of well, what's the smuttiest book you have? It's not every book is for every person at all. Me and all my girls at the store, we all have such varying degrees of what we like to read. And that's why we all work so well together. Cause I know all my monster smut recommendations are coming from my store manager. She knows all about it. So she tells me all about it.
So fun.
But it's also something like Happy Place, the book that changed my life. Some people don't like, and I'm you know what? That's okay.
Totally.
You didn't experience what I did. So it's all about just trying to figure out when people come through the door and they're asking and they're wanting recommendations, it's trying to understand, okay, well, where are you at? I don't want to just throw a bunch of books at you that you're going to hate.
Yeah.
So,
But even that question, like, where are you at? What turns you on? What would make you excited?
Yes.
Is so liberating and so amazing to just normalize the conversation around sex amongst women, and particularly in the state of Utah, but also across the country. But because sex is one of the few subjects that I can think of that we are like hyper obsessed with and hyper repressed about at the same time.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
fucking confusing is that?
I was just thinking
you know?
that question is like, that's some of the work that I did with you, that was a big piece, is like, well, what turned you on? And where are you at? And I was like, I don't fucking know. I've never spent time thinking about
Right.
what might actually turn me on beyond
Yeah.
the modern family trope of a
it's
stranger at a
become
bar.
a go-to for you.
Right?
It works quite well.
It does work quite
It's a good
well.
one. It's a good one. Yeah.
But yeah,
Love you,
because
husband.
on the flip side, I said earlier, like I've never asked my husband or anyone else, but also I realize I've never been asked. No, I mean, there might be like these micro moments in
Right.
time, but we're not having like deep conversation, particularly after
yeah.
the event. I won't say do it again. You feel better about that? The fucking inane. The fucking inane.
The roll in the hay. Then
Yeah,
I'm really
the roll-
dating myself.
Yeah.
What's the roll in hay?
You're tipping cows.
Gen Zers, look it up.
It's an analog term. But yeah, the conversation being, so important to
Right.
have.
Or
Like,
even
what is your
before.
thing?
Right.
That before.
I
And spending
know.
time with yourself before you're even talking to your partner. You don't always have to do, that's what I realized is we didn't have to even do a lot of this with each other. It was like, what is
Homework,
that? Spending,
yeah.
peeling some space
Totally.
off to sit with yourself on even being able to answer that question.
Right.
Because if you asked me that question, I'd be like, "Ugh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And really the one book that I've bought plenty of books for friends, but you picked out one book for me and it wasn't dirty enough. And I didn't actually tell you
yeah.
what Stormy was like, give me the dirtiest book you got. And I was like, oh, actually, that's probably what I needed to ask
It's
for, but was
amazing.
too scared to ask you of that because I don't know. I did. Obviously, you're not judging me, but there is that fear of judgment around
Yeah.
sex.
Totally.
No, well, and I think there has been so much stigma around romance novels. So not even just speaking sex in general, but like romance novels specifically, which I know you already mentioned earlier. Romance makes up about 60% of publishing income. Like it, and that's
Wow.
not new. That's been
I honestly just think of Fabio.
decades.
Like,
Yeah.
you know,
that's,
the
that's what we
cheesy-
grew up on, right?
Yeah.
Borrowing our grandma's
Amazing.
historical fiction books, and that's really
Historical
what it was.
fiction
Historical romance. I'm sorry.
No, but
Sorry,
actually
everybody,
what's
but
funny
also-
is I feel like my grandmother would have never had those books, but I imagine a grandma recovering each of her books
Yes,
where it's like, this is Shakespeare and this is like historical fiction. So it's like, you don't want to read that boring shit. Don't go over there.
Right. Well, and it's so funny because like where this has been a top seller and it keeps publishing houses in business for some reason, it is so stigmatized. And
Yeah.
honestly, a lot of it, in my personal opinion, I do think has to do with the fact that majority of people reading it are women. And I do think where you're finding women finding joy in something, they
That's
don't
scary.
like that.
That's
they don't
scary.
like that. And it really is something where when I open the store, and I know I told you this when I met you for the first time, I was like, I want to open a store that is a judgment-free zone. It is a safe, and if you look on our website, we have all this listed out. This has been our goal from day one. We are a judgment-free zone. We're a safe space for literally anybody, regardless of where you're at in your romance journey. Whether you read 300 romance novels a year, this is your first time ever reading one, we want you to come in and have the same experience. So we're going to greet you. We're going to talk to you. We're going to ask you questions. My staff all knows, though, it's like we're not going to push and we're not going to ask you absurd questions on your first visit, but that experience.
Do you want to fuck a monster?
I'm like, here we go.
Yeah.
But really that question of like trying to meet people where they are and kind of to understand what they're really looking for. And like you said, Tessa, maybe we didn't get it that first time because there is still that like
Totally.
Yeah.
underlying shame of like, hey, I want it pretty filthy. It's like, hell yeah, girl, let me find you something. Like
Yeah, it's so
that's
good.
something we get to do every day. And it's
Wow.
just so fun.
So fun.
I love this because what I'm imagining is like your group is talking about, like you and your employees are constantly talking about
Right.
this.
Yep.
And funny enough, one of our employees had purchased me a book from your store as a Christmas gift.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is bold.
I was just actually thinking, what a badass fucking place we've created.
And then also,
That is something that happens.
Yeah. It's amazing.
That
did great.
someone bought a dirty book for their
100%.
boss.
That's amazing.
100%.
I'm like, fuck
I'm
yeah.
totally celebrating both. That's
I know.
amazing.
She's incredible.
That's amazing.
And what was great is she's like, I took a stab at what you might like. And I was initially like, how have I given you any impression of what I like? Also, this is, and it was my first novel that I read, and it was Butcher and Blackbird,
Oh, okay.
which is, I don't know where it is on the scale of things. I mean, she wasn't far off. It's definitely like
I
a
love that series.
power dynamics.
I love that series.
Yeah, strong woman. There's
Yep.
serial killer hunters, serial
Yep.
killer. So like there was like this true crime thing in it. But what was really crazy is, of course, after I read the book, I felt obligated to tell her about my experience with the book.
Sure.
And that was uncomfortable, of course, but I was like, so, you know, like the whole, he does this, it was like a little bit weird and blah, blah, blah. But what was cool is I was like, I am also having this conversation with someone. I don't know if I've ever had this conversation with anybody. And it's an employee. Whoa, cool.
That
Power
is
dynamic
cool.
is in women. And we're back to the
Yes,
not about
I
competition and not
know.
about shame and all those things.
Right. So good.
Look what it's doing for
I
us.
have, I wanted to go back to something you said that made me tear up. Shocking. Rocky's like, this is the moment.
No, this isn't shame. This is like, we are here to cry.
Oh.
I already did it. It's okay.
When you said, I want women or just people to take their power back, it's something that I addressed a lot in the work we did together. So I just would love you to weigh in on speaking to your experiences around that and how you've seen, I'm saying women, I'm sure there's men out there too, but like from my own experience of that, that desire to take that power back after going through sexual assault.
Yeah, I think it comes down to, thanks for that beautiful question and your tenderness with it. I think it's really about sexual sovereignty, reclamation of my sexuality, of the fact that I'm a sexual being, of the fact that whether we choose to create life or not, we have the capacity to do so. Like, it's really like amazing. Like, that's wired into our biology. And that, so that I'm reclaiming it for me, not for any other person that I choose to share my sexuality with, but a reclamation. And I think that sovereignty piece, which I love when you think about the erotic literature and romance novels, is because I get to choose what turns me on and what I want to read and where I want to go in my fantasy for me, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody might not even ever know I'm reading it unless I choose to share that.
Yeah.
So it is a beautiful way when, and obviously in my work in 25 years in mental health, we're dealing with sexual assault a lot and horrifically a lot, in my opinion. But there are really beautiful ways to start safely and in a really restorative, nourishing way. And so non-trauma, not re-traumatizing way to take back our sexuality and to take back feeling safe. And often I would say almost always it doesn't start sexually. It starts with just taking back creating my body to feel like and be a safe place. And then I think there's also just normalizing and reaching out for help, and getting support, whether that's a coach or a therapist or a program, normalizing the discussions around that so that we don't have shame in isolation and adding that to that. But I think it's really so one of the sweet little, I would say is a really restorative practice is to start just listening to my body. So, and that can be whether I have capital T trauma or little t trauma, I can start to feel like I can't really, that this vessel isn't safe or it isn't going to tell me accurately, but it's usually our mind that is inaccurate and our body that's really accurate. So I think a great practice out there for listeners and watchers is that, and this is wherever you are in your trauma integration journey, because trauma is a universal experience, different levels, different kinds of trauma, of course. But so one thing I like is to literally set a timer on your phone you can do it for 10 minutes or 20 minutes where you are going to listen to your body. So if you're cold, you're going to go put a layer on. If you're hot, you're going to turn on the air. If you're thirsty, you're actually going to get something to drink. If you have to pee, you're actually going to get up and pee, right? And it sounds silly.
No, it's not, because I'm literally imagining myself through
Totally.
a work day,
Yes.
the practices.
Right.
I don't drink water. I don't pee.
You're like, I
Everything
haven't
else
eaten, I haven't
comes
peed. Yeah,
first.
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So your body, you're learning that like it isn't a safe place actually. And so you start to
Fascinating.
really do these restorative practices that have nothing to do with sex, but have everything to do with sensuality and safety, which by the way, to have great sex, you have to feel safe, surrendered, heard, and seen. Certainly the female brain does need to have all those aspects. So when you're starting to feel that, it's just a really loving, self-loving practice. And I found the first time I did it, I was like, holy shit, I really don't like listen to my body very often. Like I wasn't meeting my own body's needs. And so it's a really great practice to do. And then you get to realize like, wow, okay, it actually starts to build safety and trust that my body has wisdom and that I can create safety for it. It's a good one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I love that.
That's a great one. I know we can all relate to this because there's always something that we set aside that is a natural, innate bodily need that we will put aside
Totally.
for someone else's comfort. And it can be as simple as I'm cold, but I'm not going to ask anybody to turn down
Right.
the air conditioning. I don't want to inconvenience anyone. I don't want to.
Right.
And it's funny. I don't think all men do this, but on the flip side, that's such a feminine thing for us to have been ingrained in our head that like, take care of yourself, but actually don't inconvenience anyone
Right,
in the
exactly.
process of it. Don't make them uncomfortable. Don't
Take care of
sit.
yourself, but
It's
stay
like-
self-sacrificing.
But also like do it
You know?
discreetly. Like if you have something like it's just, you got to be discreet about it. It's like, why?
Right.
Correct.
Why?
Why do I
Yeah.
have to be discreet? If I'm cold, I'm fucking
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah,
but yeah, we will
exactly.
suppress.
Yeah.
So it's so fascinating to think about that being the baseline of sensuality and sexuality because I
Totally.
don't think about it like that. I'm like, oh, well, then it's just my physical,
Right.
genital area that we're talking about, and it's
Exactly.
not. You're saying it's the whole being.
It's the whole being. And that's why I love the head and heart work, like the name of your podcast, like it is literally all about sexuality because to feel empowered in our sexuality, to feel in reclamation and sovereignty of our sexuality, our head and heart have to be aligned. And right, my head doesn't have to be the executor of safety when I can trust my body to also to build that alignment, so and that's where my real pleasure, my real bliss, my best orgasms all lie, when that head and heart are actually aligned, and rather than one leading the charge.
We definitely do have people coming in who, and I love that we were able to build this, me and the team are able to build a safe space where people feel comfortable coming in and maybe sharing things that we don't necessarily need to know about. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm so happy that people are kind of feeling that way. But really, I think it's our job to make sure that people are looking after themselves when it comes to reading romance, because there are so many different ways you can go. Specifically, I'm not a doctor. That's Dr. Stormy over here. But a lot of what I know about people finding and kind of reclaiming their power back comes from reading dark romance, which can be dark in terms of content. It can be dark in terms of taboo and kink. And so really, even if people are looking for books that are not specific in this genre, our recommendation is always to make sure you're checking your trigger warnings when it comes to books, even if it is a contemporary read. Meaning, because when it comes to dark romance, there can be things like consent, non-consent triggers that some people, if you're not ready for that, or that's not the thing you like, that can be very jarring if you go into it blind.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. Can we just define what dark romance is? Because I'm over here going, I'm not quite sure. You said kink, but
Yep.
is it something broader?
Yes, it can be a lot broader. So a lot of it, there's like mafia romance and like, so where a lot of, because really Butcher and Blackbird is a dark rom-com. So really it could go into dark romance.
Yeah, but it's funny.
It
It's-
is funny.
it's not-
We put ours in contemporary, but really I if another bookstore put it in dark, it would make sense because there are some of those darker themes. Like they're killing people. There's
Right.
gory things. There are some taboo and kink related things as well.
Yep.
So yeah, that's more or less what we're going to see. A lot of taboo. So there can be big age gaps or like multiple partners or things like that. And not to say that multiple partners can't be in contemporary or in fantasy, because it can be, but that's typically where we see more of it.
Okay.
Is in dark.
Sorry, go back to what you were saying then, because
No,
that
you're
gives
good.
me a good scope of.
Yeah.
I'm not even dark to me would be horror, but you're
Yes.
opening that into a broader scope, and everyone's gonna have a different interpretation of it. But
Absolutely. And so, but really with the trigger warnings, that isn't specific just to dark. Like one of my good friends, she came in recently and we were talking and she's looking at a book and she's like, yeah, it's the anniversary of one of my best friends who passed away from cancer. And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm so sorry. Give her a big hug. She picks up a book and I'm like, you can't read that book. It's a contemporary. It's not super spicy, but it literally, the female main character loses her best friend to cancer.
Wow.
I'm like, babe, that book is not for you right now. And I told her, I'm like, I want to look out for you. If you are in that part of your grief journey, like by all means, but I do want you to know what you're getting into. And so she
So
definitely,
smart.
she
Yeah,
shelved that one for
amazing.
later. She's
Right.
like, that's not what I need. So yeah, really our goal is to just make sure that, again, you have that safe space to explore, but that you are given the tools you need to make the right decision for yourself. Because we'd never want to recommend a book that is not going to, that's going to offend you or make you uncomfortable. So yeah.
And that's really like back, that even gives more sovereignty really and more autonomy and reclamation, because if I can be aware, we have some really intense stranger sexual assault in our family history that a family member went through. And I'm very careful with this family member to be like, that movie may be triggering for you, or this book may be triggering for you. And then she gets to decide if she wants to explore that, knowing she can put the book aside or turn the movie off or walk out of the movie, which we've done. And also like make sure to, again, just, the extra tip would be that if you are feeling really triggered, that there's always support out there to like work with the triggers, whether that's a therapist or a coach or, a group or a trusted friend, just to say, wow, that I was even surprised. I thought I'd work through that. Right. Cause that's what triggers are, not a one and done. And sometimes we're not, we're not even, and that's how, because our body stores the trauma, we might not even know what triggers us, but having really trigger warnings are great. And then knowing what to do if you are triggered. And that's healing, right? So that we can take autonomy and reclamation of even when we are feeling triggered.
Can you tell Rocky
I love a
about
good
how
metaphor.
one of your sexy homeworks of taking your yoni on a date? Tell Rocky what that is.
So it's a yoni date, and it's really this whole that we tend to even outsource our orgasm. We outsource our pleasure. We outsource what do I want to wear that feels sexy? Because often we'll think about it through like maybe our male gaze or our partner's lens of like what we know they think is sexy, which isn't bad or wrong, but what do I think is sexy?
Self first.
What do I feel sexiest in? What makes me feel like, And so part of that journey with women is often a reclamation of our own pleasure. So we don't a lot of time women I'm working with won't even think about their genitalia unless they're into like a sexual encounter. So, or maybe they're self-pleasuring if that is a part of their practice.
Is it weird if I think about mine all the time?
No, it's amazing.
Okay.
It's so
Keep going.
great. And then it's like, so how do you learn to make fabulous love to yourself is kind of the idea, right? So instead of just no, I love toys, but so I'm not just saying like nothing wrong with pulling out a toy for a quick orgasm, but can you luxuriate in it? Can you savor it? Can you really make love to yourself? Can you touch yourself the way you would want like the ultimate lover to touch yourself? And so it's really an experience of
delicious
self-love.
long meal.
So you take your yoni on a date. Just you
It
and
was
your
so
yoni.
uncomfortable to start.
When
I did it.
You were like, this is horrible.
To start, I just was like, it was like, okay.
Unfamiliar
It
territory.
was unfamiliar to do this solo. And it's not that I hadn't ever masturbated solo. It's just that it was a different take. That was not the end goal, right?
Yeah.
It was like, what can you do for yourself specifically? And I think there was like a tub involved. There was candlelight involved. And then I got in my bed in my like sexiest version. And it was bizarre to be this. It was a strange thing. It took me a long time to drop into the pleasure.
Well, it's not like this is
of
what
it.
they're teaching you in sex ed, right?
No.
You're not like going
No,
into
it
class.
took a really long time. It was really uncomfortable, and I had the door shut, and like Tim. my
Hope nobody
husband was
walks
like,
in.
What's happening? I'm like, I'm doing my sexy homework, taking my yoni on a date, and he's like, what?
You're what on a what?
What on a what?
I'll take your yoni on a date. You want to go? Yeah.
So it was wildly interesting.
Yeah.
And then I realized, oh, I have been not asking for touch in the right way.
Right. And
It was
also,
huge.
and
Like,
maybe,
I like
right.
really light touch, as
beautiful.
light as you could possibly touch someone. That is what I like.
Amazing.
And my inner thighs are very like sensitive.
Uh-huh.
I had never asked for ever in my entire life had I ever asked
Right.
anyone for those two things.
Yeah, because we can't ask for that if we don't know
Yeah.
it, right?
And I
If
would
we
get
don't
it
know
randomly and be really excited,
Yeah.
but I couldn't take away that those two things were actually like a huge turn on for me.
Yeah. And then also just luxuriating in yourself, right? Like it's really it's not a typical experience. Like, right. If you look at like the average sexual encounter, heterosexual encounter is like 8.3 minutes, I think the research says, but it takes about 13 for a woman to her anatomy of arousal to become fully aroused. Well, therein lies the orgasm gap. So when you're doing it, when you're working on a yoni day, luxuriating yourself, learning your own anatomy of arousal and pleasure, you can go for as long as you want.
Yeah, you got all the
Because
time in
you
the
got all
world.
the time in the world. So, and then you get to teach and lead and guide and give feedback on what it is that you actually want and desire. And it's a really cool experience. And when I first started this work, I think it's 17 years ago now, the woman I was working with was like, when was the last time you made fabulous love to yourself? And I'm like, what? Is that a thing? What do you mean? You know? And now it's one of my favorite things to teach and practice myself too.
All right, viewers, there's your sexy homework from Stormy. Go
There's
home
your
and make fabulous love to yourself
Fabulous
and
love.
take your yoni on a date.
Be your best lover.
Yeah, without the
Wow.
objective of an orgasm, which
Yep.
I feel like is
Is-
your key takeaway.
Absolutely. If that happens, great. And if it doesn't, fabulous. Just as
Worship.
much information.
Just
Yeah.
worship yourself.
Yep.
I love that. I do the yoni date thing quite frequently. I have a nice conversation with my with my lady bits on the regular. But in what's interesting about this to me, why is this funny?
I think it was the lady bits.
I
that
know.
told me that. I was like,
My
okay.
hoo-ha.
And the way she like pointed, like I'm like
On the
right.
on
It
the
was a lot.
rag. I
was
do it on the
board. I'm here
rag.
with it. No shame.
I know
No
that
shame.
that was a
I
laughter
know.
of shame. I was just
No,
curious.
it was
Like,
totally
am I making you
enjoyment.
uncomfortable? Who's sweaty? I'm aroused. What's happening with
amazing.
everybody else? But what's interesting is, you know, what you were kind of implying is that we do a lot of things for the performance factor. Not
male
necessarily
gaze.
for ourselves. And when I'm thinking about romance, I'm actually uncomfortable in that book space, if you will, because I don't know if, even if I do have this connection, I haven't really been spending a lot of time exploring it in the world of romance. And I think that's because when we were talking about it earlier, you guys mentioned like, well, this is a fantasy for inspiration. And sometimes I'm like, well, what if I don't want to how do I say that? My fantasy idea is not necessarily something I want to implement. I actually just want to be in the creative, imaginary space of
Love it.
like, yeah, I don't actually want to have sex with a minotaur. I actually don't even like the idea of that. That sounds weird. A centaur, I'm like, cool, I could get down with that. Okay. But like, I'm not going to go out and fuck a horse. So this is one of those things where I'm like, tell me more about like, what do you guys know about this? The world of actual fantasy where we're not taking it
Fantasy versus
into,
reality.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that.
yeah. Because that's where I feel a little bit of like, I'm uncomfortable because I don't really
Right.
want to say my
Totally.
fantasies out loud. Because what
Right.
if it's like scary or shameful for somebody?
Absolutely. And I think I think of it as fantasy. It gives us information. It's data, right? So it really gives us data. We get very much like, what does that say about me? Or what makes, if I'm like, oh my gosh, that is something I could never tell someone, which often is the case.
Yes.
Because most people do not talk with their partners or even friends or whatever about fantasies. It's like research would say. But instead of like, what's wrong with me? It's actually like, if we can shift that narrative, that script to say, what is that fantasy that sounds like kind of erotic and hot to me? What is that saying about my desires and what my nervous system might be needing or wanting? Because that's what it is. It's just giving you information. And so it might not be like, so for example, a very common fantasy is multiple partners, right? So like a threesome or a foursome or whatever, fivesome. It's one of the most common fantasies, research would say.
Fascinating.
I can tell you, it is totally a fantasy that I have, and not something I want to live out in reality.
Okay,
Maybe had like a little college experience for one moment in that, but besides that, it's not anything I want to live out because I know myself and I'm such a caretaker. I'd be like, okay, is everybody good? Is everyone, there's a lot of parts going on. I would be worried about everyone else's orgasm except for my own. It would literally be so not sexy for me, right? But the fantasy is real for me. And so then I get to say with my partner, and I'm with one partner, a man, and I'm like, I get to say to him, and we have had these conversations where I'm like, okay, this is totally a fantasy I have. I don't want to live it out. I'm aware of myself on that, but how can we bring in elements of that? So maybe we use toys because then there's like more parts that can be like stimulated at the same time, or maybe we use fantasy where we like pretend like there's another person in the room or whatever, right? So we can bring in aspects of it. And maybe my nervous system is needing more stimulation and more in different parts, right? So it might be something as simple as that. And so if we can normalize fantasy as data and fantasy as, and I think the other thing is you can't shame someone for their fantasies. Like you really, I mean, we really should not be fantasy shaming anyone because it's fantasy, right? And they may have zero desire to make it real in reality. But what is it instead? Most of the time, if we can look at it, what is it? Like if I have a fantasy about being with a woman, maybe I really desire to be with a woman, but maybe I'm wanting more nurturing, slower lovemaking, more attention, more tentative.
Fascinating. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So looking at it like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, there's so much that you can learn from reading romance, like just the two scenarios you're describing, the two fantasies you're describing. If that is something that you are curious about or interested about, we have plenty of books we can share of just like a kind of how to explore that without, like you said, committing to an actual experience, you know? And I think we tend to see trends happen with different tropes or different types of books that are really popular. Like I know right now we're seeing a huge surge of fantasy romance. So very much powerful FMC, you know,
What's FMC?
Yeah.
Oh, female main character.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
So she's
Big
our
vulva
protagonist.
energy.
Yes.
Yep.
Wait,
And
what'd
so
you
that-
say? Boss ass bitches.
Oh, okay, yes.
Otherwise
talking
known
about
as.
I thought you gave me the name of a character, and I was like, "Look at you! Look at you!"
I was like, is FMC a kink I don't know about? Like, I was like, what is FMC? It's amazing.
Okay, so female main
So we got
character.
female main character
Yeah.
or MMC, our male main character. Obviously, if we're talking queer
Yes.
romance, we've got MMFF, we've got MMFF. There's so many different ways we can go about it.
MMA.
But, yep,
Yeah, I don't know any more
just a lot.
acronyms.
There's a lot. But so that's a really big popular one right now is the entire fantasy genre. So a lot of magic and exploration and war and battle. And so all of these things I think people are reading and it's like, well, I couldn't ride a dragon, like, and not in a sexy way. I'm talking like an actual, like, they take me somewhere.
I was
Like,
all in. I was like, horse,
You're like, I
dragon.
Oh. Forget train my dragon, ride my dragon.
Fuck yeah, bondage with a dragon. I am in. That's what that movie was. You know, for the kids.
There
How
we
to
go.
Train Your Dragon. Took it a whole different direction.
Look at a whole different dragon.
But I think we see things like that where it's like this much broader genre trend. But then we see things like so many books these days are very like enemies to lovers, where the two characters meet and they just hate each other and they can't stand each other. And like, I mean, I would assume that could be like a fantasy element or like an age gap where he's much older or she's much older and
Right.
and different fantasies
that's
there.
So interesting. If you think of the enemies to lovers, like that's a super interesting one because right, everyone talks about makeup sex. Like Ray is like it's the best part
Yeah.
of fighting, right? Like so that means
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
enemies to lovers, but that is a little bit of a microcosm of that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And maybe that points to me if I'm like, oh my God, give me every book in your store on enemies to lovers. Maybe I need to look at what is my makeup sex like in my relationship? How do I repair and restore and come back to connection? You know, like maybe I'm like, oh, well, this is inspiring to like, you know, I don't want to hate the person I'm making love to in the real, maybe in real life, but it inspires me to like think about how do we come back into like sexual connection after a rupture in my relationship.
Okay, do the age one now. Do the age one now.
Yeah, the age gap.
Yeah,
Okay,
tell
age
me
gap.
more.
The other
Yeah.
one, I would think for me, age gap, what that would bring up, well, if I were having that, if I'm like, oh my gosh, again, I'm coming over, I want every book on age gap sex, you know, hot romance and sex, it would say for me would be about vitality and like how do I add more playfulness and vitality into my relationship because my partner is 10 years older than me. So right, so I'm the like younger one. so how would he be able to bring in more vitality and playfulness into the role he plays in my life would be for me with that.
Fascinating.
And then maybe we role play and he's like, you know, like the hot 20-year-old plumber or whatever. Like, I don't know. Like, so, you know, so I probably, 20, whatever. Yeah, 21 would be hot. I mean, in my fantasy. So like you could role play aspects of age gap, you know. And then if I'm out there single, maybe I am interested. If I'm single, maybe that does point me in that, like, maybe I do want to date someone younger and see what that's like, right?
Yeah. What about then forced proximity? So the two characters, maybe they have to live together.
Oh,
they have to. Maybe they're on vacation and they have to share a room. There's only one bed. What are they going to do?
What are they going to do? Oh my gosh, this is so amazing.
I like this.
Okay, I love forced proximity.
That's a thing.
That's a thing. Forced. I think that's a thing for me. Go figure.
Forced. Okay, so I'm on vacation. I'm like, oh, well, there's only one bed. What are we gonna do? You know, I mean, so to me, that's like anticipatory, right? Dopamine is all about, and dopamine is not the pleasure molecule. I mean, it is involved with pleasure, but it's really the like anticipation molecule. So that like I'm getting a massive dopamine like hit when I'm reading about like, ooh, what's gonna happen? What's the possibility here? So for me, that would be like, how do I bring in more like anticipatory novelty into my like?
We're going shopping together.
Yes, we are.
I mean, like, I'm literally
This
gonna be
has
like,
to happen.
I don't know what my thing is. So
But anticipatory, I think that
I mean, I
sounds
definitely
true.
got a little,
Yeah,
a
that
little
sounds
Oh, I got goosey bumps and crotch tingles and all.
crotch tingle.
crotch tingle.
All right.
Dude, like
Shit.
what you said though, Rocky,
Shit.
you're like, I
Stormy
don't know
might be taking
what
the
I
lead.
want. Like, I don't know what I'm interested in. And I think like that's such a powerful thing about romance is that like, yes, you can absolutely utilize all of these things in terms of your sex life, in terms of your relationship. And it can totally point to some of the things like Stormy is saying, but there's also, you could just read it for fun and just like, you could read, I've read so many books where I'm like, I would never do this. Like
Totally.
and I could still have a great time. And so I do just want to like, maybe homework for viewers, listeners, whoever, is to really just take the pressure off yourself when it comes to romance novels. Like, you don't have to have an epiphany every book you read. You don't have to find yourself in every single story, especially like me sharing a super emotional story. And then we're talking about fantasies. It's like, these are both ends of the spectrum. And most of the books I read and most of the experiences I have in the store, they're just in that middle area of like, this is just fun. It's women joy. It's happiness. And it doesn't have to be that much.
You're saying that, and I'm like, no, absolutely not. There has to be a purpose. I have to.
That's our business mindset.
Yeah.
We're like, well, if I'm reading.
So also, when you're saying that, though, it's such an indicator to me of like, oh, I apparently never even thought of romance or sex in that way, because I probably am just like trying to get shit done, you know? Like I'm here for the.
I really love that.
But
that reflection of like suspend your disbelief, just have fun with it. What if I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never, but I'm going to keep reading because this is really
I'm still enjoying myself. Like,
that's really fun.
Absolutely. And it is always so fun. I mean, I think that's one of the most powerful things with romance though, is being able to see yourself. And why I love the genre so much is there's so much diversity in it. There's so much inclusion in romance, and not to say there's not in any other genre, because there absolutely is, but like, really, when you're looking at who's writing romance, it's more often women, queer, BIPOC authors who are really trying to show people and represent so many different minority groups in literature. And I can remember off the top of my head, like 2 books that I found where the FMC, the female main character, was tall. And I was like, yes, cool. My God, finally. Because it, obviously
took
when
6 feet and made you powerful.
I'm like, thank you. Exactly. And so I absolutely get that of wanting to see yourself in these books, and not necessarily again to put yourself in a fantasy world unless you want to, by all means, but like just to be able to see that representation is beautiful, and being able to see yourself in books where that character's finding their happily ever after, and they're loved for who they are, and they're, just all the things. It's just beautiful.
Very cool.
I feel like you two are saving relationships, like one person at a time, or maybe now multiple people, because you get to do this on a different stage.
The relationship with ourselves. The most important one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's interesting to be thinking about, like, one of the things you taught me, Stormy, was, and I think that you just touched on this, of the idea that this idea to dip into fantasy or romance as as a way that you don't have to bring it into your real life, but it can help you. I don't want to say check the box because that sounds
Find
terrible,
out more about yourself.
but find out more about yourself, but also give you that satisfaction that you're looking for in your regular life, right? Like you're opening the door. And sometimes if you can just think about it, you don't have to change your whole life to, you know, become married to a woman or have multiple partners or whatever it is that might turn you on along the way, that you're getting that fulfillment from just a fantasy, which you told me a long time ago that your brain doesn't know the difference.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it really, this is why one of many reasons why visualization works. And they use visualization like professional athletes. I mean, you know, obviously a lot of personal transformation work uses the power of visualization, but the brain can't tell when I can deeply, fully visualize and reading something that's super, you know, articulate and gives really descriptive can drop me into that. Can't tell the difference between what I'm visualizing, what has already happened. And that's one of the reasons why setting goals and deeply visualizing moves us towards our goals, you know? So I think I hadn't ever thought about that through the power of words and literature, you know, and novels and things, because it's like, wow, that is, if I can't feel that, but I can read it, that's like a great step in the right direction to start me to say, oh, that is possible. Look at this, right? And then I think it's just fun. It adds playfulness, right? Like it is so, who doesn't like love to where you're just, I mean, I get into flow with a book where I'm like hours go by and I'm like, oh my God, what just happened? So having it be about something yummy and sexy and saucy and fun is like, I'm all for it. I'm all in. I'm a convert. You converted me.
My work here is done.
Yeah.
It's cool because I'm thinking of movies when we're talking about this. And I think one of the more interesting things that I've heard is like my favorite movie genre does not match the outward presentation of who I am to most people. So my favorite category is romantic comedy. And most people who know me are like, really? That doesn't really match you. I would have thought you would have been into like action or maybe a dark movie. Yeah. And what's interesting is I have been thinking over the last few years, like, oh, romantic comedy, why is that so impactful to me? And it's because the epic love story and the lightness of it and the joy of all those things. And so all of these mechanisms are just ways for us to not just look at ourselves sexually, but to look at ourselves from a very real, raw lens of our entire selves.
Totally.
And that, I mean, I love doing the game of give me a trope and then give me what it means to you. Because I would have never landed on vulnerability or vitality. Vitality was the one that, as like an age gap thing. I would think Freudian, like, oh, someone's got a problem with, you know, a parent and we're manifesting it in the sexuality component. But it's so much broader than that. And it's so much more enlightening than just purely sexuality.
We are sexual beings, right?
Yes.
I mean, everyone comes from the energy and power of sex, right? So we are like, and then we put it behind the closed door, behind the bedroom door. Like we're like, okay, we're not gonna talk about that. We're gonna like, it's only when we're having sex, rather than it as like a life force energy.
Yeah.
Which is the most creative life force energy. And so how do we tap into that? How do we use that as female business owners and entrepreneurs? Like how do we use that as females moving through the world, right? As women, you know, are identifying as women moving through the world. Well, we do that partly by starting to normalize it as a part of who we are. Not like, okay, like I'm not going to, it's not a part of who I am at work. Well, obviously there's boundaries and professional and personal boundaries, but it is also about like, I can feel my sexual energy all the time. Most of us only feel it when we're having sex. And then we get to like really practice broadening where like, for me, it's about feeling alive and turned on and vibrant versus like, oh gosh, do I have to get out my sweatpants today? Which by the way, I love those days too, but I'm not feeling my sexual energy as much on those days.
Yeah.
So, but we're really myopic, or we think of sexual energy as like the energy when having the sex, which is not, it's not accurate. So I love these conversations, you know, to invite us all in from all different spaces to like normalize sex as women is really amazing. So thanks for starting the conversation.
Yeah, and utilize it as data. I mean, I also just imagine myself 10 years ago and like more than 10 years ago, had I read something about BDSM, I would have been like, oh, maybe you're taking this in the workplace. Maybe there's a power dynamic that you feel uncomfortable around where you have a lot of masculine energy and you're going to meet it with masculine energy. Oh, and guess what's happening? It's not necessarily the the collaboration that you're looking for, maybe you should have turned on a little bit of feminine energy. Like that's so not where I would have expected a romance novel to give me info or anything else. But man, that would have been great data to think about. So now I'm like, yeah, let's go shopping. I'm going to utilize both of you selfishly to shop for me, to be like, I've read 2 romance novels, but like I want one that's designed for me.
Yeah.
But
I know what I'm reading. I'm going to definitely read whatever romance novel you help me pick out after this podcast. I'm like, I've got plans tonight.
And then I'm also like, all right, what other homework we got? So,
Well, we got 2 from you. So one from each of you. I cannot wait to read and learn more from both of you, because you guys are amazing. You women are amazing, not you guys. Thank you. Okay, so we have to announce the winner, because that was a fun challenge. I don't know if anybody else was keeping track, but apparently we were keeping track. So
I'm
drum roll,
pins and
please.
needles in my nether regions.
Rocky and Stormy tied for first place. Courtney, we have work to do.
We have equally dirty minds. I love it. I love it.
I love eye contact the whole time. I'm like, tell me more. Eye contact's a turn on for me. And I love
Totally.
twosomes, so I'm glad that we tied.
Oh, I love it, love it, love
so
it.
good.
We want to know where we can find more of you, because I want more of you both. I'm fucking obsessed with the 2 of you. So tell us more. Courtney, where can we find you?
Yep. So our storefront, Lovebound Library, is right here on 900 South, 145 East. We're right on Edison. You'll see it. It's super cute. And then online, you can find us at Lovebound Library on Instagram, TikTok. We just launched our website as well. So if you are listening from out of Utah, we can totally ship you books. So go to loveboundlibraryslc.com and you'll find it all there.
So fun. And I'm going there next for sure.
Absolutely.
Definitely come down the store. Looks so cute. I can't wait to go in.
Reminder how important it is to buy local, y'all.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
Totally. Buy local.
Please,
Keep your retailers
please. I
in
will
business.
say
Yeah.
there's a large online retailer that is able to discount their books below MSRP because they sell so much other stuff. So they're able to take a hit on books. Please do not support them for books because indie bookstores need it.
Yeah.
We cannot do that. So
Wow, that's good to know.
I'll let you guess which one it is. Anyway.
You've got mail.
That's awesome. For me, you can find, I have a fun 21-day pleasure challenge that's coming up. It's going to be evergreen, so you can sign up anytime. You can find out details about it on lovedeeperlab.com. It's just about 6 minutes science-based practices to bring more pleasure, including in the bedroom, but also in different parts of your life. So, and you can find out my information about my coaching there. And if you are interested, I love speaking on, I think women, I love the brain, and women are the female brain is the perfect setup for being amazing entrepreneurs and leaders. And I love lecturing and talking on that. So any women's groups out there definitely interested in talking, you can email me, stormy@lovedeeplab.com.
Thank you guys for being here with us. We're
Thank you.
opening
This was a
portals for
blast.
women to explore their whole selves.
Totally.